this idea of seeing both sides of an issue, saying, even if I disagree, I understand your points. There's some part of the population that thinks that's a bad habit, not just something that they don't do, but something they refuse to do because it's not useful. Well, so oh, this person doesn't want a vaccine. Why don't they want a vaccine? It seems so obvious to me. Well, maybe they were raised in an area where they're just taught from a young age not to trust the government about anything or to value personal freedom, or maybe they have, from a young age gotten misinformation about other types of vaccines and this and that. So maybe they're not a bad person. Maybe they're actually acting from what they think is their best interest, and the best interest of everyone, including myself, is what they think they're coming from.
And were I in their position growing up, I'd probably have come to similar conclusions.
And there is a group of people who will hear that and go, I don't even want to extend that empathy. I want that side to be considered bad. They're the enemy. They're the outsiders. And we have to decry them in order to get them to do what we want, or in order to get other people to do what we want. We have to make them idiots, devils, whatever it may be. And I was surprised when I saw it, because I was like, oh, enlightened centrist. This seems like a pretty positive term. No, in fact, it's a derogatory one. I was surprised to find out. Yeah. So I think it's people don't. There's not a huge movement towards what you're talking about, which is seeing that tweet, even if it supports a book you don't like, and going,
what could this mean? How could this guy not be evil?
Yeah, maybe this guy and I are the same.
Yeah. And
his upbringing was different, or this tweet doesn't mean what I think it is, and I'm just mind reading. Yeah, I don't know. That's not where I see the U.S. culture at least going.
Well, I think what you're accurately pointing to is that the rush to jump is not, I don't even know, there's a bit of control, but I actually really do think there's something so deeply tribal about human psychology. And just signaling tribal alliances, whether it's when your sports team is playing or on Twitter, is so deeply rooted in us. And so you mentioned enlightened centrism. What I've seen is that there are these labels and throwaway lines that people who use them do not know what they mean, but use them as segmenting tools into the other. So enlightened centrist is one, which is, you have yet to explain why that is a bad thing. You know what I mean? And if you ask many, I think, of the people who are saying it, why is it a bad thing? Why is it particularly bad in this context? I don't know that they could give you a good answer. They just have seen that is a label and an insult that effectively dismisses someone else as shouldn't be listened to.
Well, and I think it's mostly like you're in the way of the progress I want. So if I'm an extreme Republican or an extreme Democrat or extreme liberal or extreme conservative, then you being in the center gets in the way, in the sense that you're going to slow down the progress I want. Because what I want is a fast moving pace towards, and then just pick your thing, abortion being made illegal again, or guns being made illegal. Just pick your extreme thing. It's like you're slowing us down by trying to see the merits of both sides and having empathy for both sides. And if everyone would just get on my page, we could get much faster to where I think the right destination is. So that's why I think it's...
I also wonder how many of those principled beliefs would change if the person's circumstances changed. So this is too easy. This is way too easy. But just as an example, there was that OK Boomer girl who was like, eat the rich shirts and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And they got her 2 million. This is I know, this is the easiest one in the entire world. I'm not trying to set this up, but just as an example, it's eat the rich until you have a lot of money, at which point it's, I earned this, and I do wonder, for everybody, this is why John Rawls' Veil of Ignorance is so powerful. Like, what if your position were changed, and like, what kind of world what would the tax rate be in a world where you didn't know if you were rich or poor?
Yeah, no, I mean, I know people who are extremely pro whatever the current American socialist movement is. And if they make 50 grand a year each, anyone who makes 100 grand a year, that's where the taxes should start hiking up. But if they make 150 grand and their significant other makes 150 grand, obviously 300 grand of household income is not a lot of money. And the increased taxes to pay for the socialist stuff should come at 500 grand a year household income. Yep. I haven't seen anybody.
And we all agree that everyone I know that billionaires have to pay the most because no one I know is a billionaire.
I don't know anyone who sends the government more than their fair share because they want to help fund programs more than they think required.
They want to be the change that they need to see in the world. They believe in higher taxes and they believe it should apply to them.
Yeah, most everyone I see
therefore they send a bigger check. That
just go whoever's to the right of the bell curve. Whoever's to the right of the bell curve, that's who should be paying more.
Yes.
That's pretty much everyone I know. I actually don't even, and then
it is suspicious, and I just want to underscore what you just said, that the U.S. government at any given time throughout history who has raised and lowered the tax brackets to 36 to 39, that I cannot think of a single individual who, when it was lowered from 39 to 36, was like, you know what? It was right at 39, and I'm going to send in my 39. Mm-hmm. That there's not one of those. It is curious that the U.S. government has never underbilled a single person to their own sense, as far as I know. And if you're out there and you're in the comments, you're like, I think it's 45 and I've been sending 45 every year, you let me know in the comments.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think I think that the obvious rebuttal that people will say is, well, I donate to charity.
Sure.
But I would say probably a lot less than the government forces you to donate to other people. Like no one I know thinks that they've missed so bad that they're going to go, oh, you know what? I'm going to donate 20% of my pre-tax income, 40% of my post-tax income to charity.
Well, furthermore, charity is a choice and you select something that is near and dear to your heart. Like, listen, when we talk about raising taxes, we don't talk about oftentimes more control over where that money goes. We just talk about raising it. So if you're, and I'm not, look, you can be an advocate for raising taxes, but I suppose what Ben and I are saying is if you are an advocate for raising taxes at any level, you should consider sending more this year to the government, whether or not your tax proposal goes through.
Well, no, but most people's proposal doesn't include their income bracket.
Yes, you should consider that it maybe should go up for your income bracket.
Yeah.
And you should taste how that feels going out. And you should then feel the reasons that you don't like that might apply at various different levels. And that sense of this could cut against my interests will give you, I think, a more sophisticated understanding of the complexity of the problem. And here's the good news. This is not to shut people up. It's to give you a really deep understanding of like the internal changes that are required to become more charitable, magnanimous, be the change you want to see in the world, which is absolutely not easy. It's really easy to say that the world has a ton of problems, and if these other people would change, like everybody has a list of people that could fix the world if only they would change.
Yeah, and if you give away 50% of your post-tax income and you think that what would be fair is if everyone in the world gave away 50% of their post-tax income, you have a really strong platform to stand on, which is that you're doing it. Mm-hmm. You're living it, you're dealing with the consequences of it, and you still think it's a good idea, and that's awesome. And I think you're the most credible person to suggest that plan.
Yeah.
And this isn't actually to say that taxes shouldn't go up or that people shouldn't donate to charity. Obviously, we do our charity water campaigns. It's to say that you should do it before you try to suggest that everyone else should do it, or that the government should mandate that people do it.
And here's the thing, even the attempt, and I want to underscore this because this is not just to shut people down and say, hey, look, until you can change the world is like, it's that you will get a deeper understanding of the resistance internally to making any of these positive changes that you would like to see in the world. And it will make you more able to persuade people, you know? So even if you're, it'll introduce you to the selfishness in your own heart, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's the value.
I foresee a lot of comments explaining why it makes sense to raise taxes above a certain bracket that the person commenting isn't in.
Yeah. So in before, in before. And to be fair, that can still be true. And I actually, you can still, I think, you could still think, look, billionaires ought to pay a higher share. We have a lot of tax loopholes. They don't even wind up paying the same percentage that other people pay. That should happen. And I'm going to apply that same critical eye to my own tax burden. I'm going to come into my own tax burden and imagine it from the perspective of somebody who makes a third as much as I do, how much I ought to pay, what luxuries I have that maybe I could go without so that the community could benefit. Like just the same level of critical eye to your own situation, I think, is a very, very sobering and powerful tool if applied for a long time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Jordan Peterson has it when he says, if you were in Nazi Germany, there's a really good chance you'd be a Nazi. I think it's, look at how many billionaires don't pay what you think is a fair share of taxes. Let's say it's 9 out of 10. There's a 90% chance that if you became a billionaire, you wouldn't pay your fair share of taxes.
I love those tweets, which is like, instead of going, know what I would do? I would donate to all these. Oh, would you?
You wouldn't. Yeah. I mean, or there's a chance you would. Listen, there's a billionaire that gives away all their money, and you have the exact same chance as all the current existing billionaires. And I think that's really hard for people to understand. I think that it's much easier to say that's a different class of person that is less ethical than I am.
Yes, and I will add just the one caveat here, which is that it is possible that the steps one needs to take to become a billionaire select for instance, more psychopathic personalities, and such that the percentages might not be identical to the population as a whole. All that considered, you still probably wouldn't give away a ton if you're not giving away a ton right now. You are not a billionaire. You are a millionaire compared to much of the world if you are listening to our podcast. Like relative
you could give an amount that you think is inconsequential. And
I don't mean to berate our audience at all. I'm just
No. Hopefully our audience is even better than the average. But no, it's just if a billionaire could give away enough money that it wouldn't even matter to them, but it could change a life. It's like, well, $40 once a month would get someone who doesn't have access to clean water, and there's malaria nets and malaria pills. And I think people in India and Africa would probably look to our lower middle class people with the same critique of, you guys sure seem like you have a lot and wouldn't notice if you gave me $40 a month. Mm-hmm. But I, on the other hand, could drink water that didn't have parasites in it if you did. So that's what I mean. It's just this I just made a video about this. Just like, whatever your critique is of someone else, write it down and then say, in what ways could this apply to me?
Yeah. Pretty concise. That's a good spot. Hope that you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to see more like this and have us do more podcasts, we are 100% funded by our generous patrons. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link in the description, and we'll have one pop up on the screen right here so that we can do more podcasts where we have fun conversations and hopefully some deep ones like this. Either way, hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.